Don't feel bad for these losers.
73 million baby boomers in the US, and they can all retire by 2030. But at the same time, 45% of baby boomers have no retirement savings, and they are now the fastest growing generation to become homeless.
Don't feel bad for these losers. So, the baby boomers aren't looking so hot right now, as many of them are rapidly becoming homeless. Watch to the end of the video to understand why so many baby boomers are becoming homeless and why we should feel sorry for them. Also, what the future has in store for boomers who didn't plan ahead. And let's just say there's a lot of destitution in there. Let's just go ahead and jump right back into the video.
Everyone is saying baby boomers are the wealthiest generation. What's going on? What happened to all their money? Chances are, when you think of retirement, you see yourself sipping spicy margaritas in Costa Rica or cruising down the Miami freeway counting your money, all thanks to the three-legged stool. In finance, the stool basically represents the three most common ways retirees receive income in their twilight years. The only problem is, the three legs are starting to get wobbly. Firstly, there's savings to think about. After working for 46 years, you're expected to have a sizable nest egg saved up from which you can slowly withdraw from after you stop working. The problem is, the average baby boomer isn't prepared. 45% of baby boomers have no retirement savings, and out of those who do, 28% have less than $100,000 saved. Now, $100,000 might sound like a lot of money, but on average, people older than 65 spend about $52,000 a year to live. There's rising medical expenses, delicious sugar-free applesauce, and Billy Joel concert tickets. You don't have to be a math whiz to realize the average baby boomer will burn through their savings sooner rather than later. And it's already happening. Baby boomers are now the fastest growing generation to experience homelessness. In the 1990s, 11% of the homeless population were 50 and older. Today, that number is nearly 50%. Many baby boomers across the country are now coming to terms with the reality that working your entire adult life is no longer enough to guarantee that you'll have a roof over your head in your later years. So we know the savings leg can't be relied on. What about the other two? But first, if you want to easily save more money, then you have to use a savings goal tracker and checklist. I'm giving away mine for free, link down below. During the Great Depression, many working families lost their jobs. Businesses collapsed, people starved, and food rations became the norm. One of the groups hit the hardest were older Americans, who despite working for 46 years of their lives, now lived in poverty. In response, President Roosevelt passed the Social Security Act in 1935 to provide a financial safety net for retirees. Basically, retirees received monthly checks from the government to spend on essentials. But Social Security wasn't free. The government designed it as a pay-as-you-go program. They added a new tax for those currently working. From every paycheck, a bit of money was deducted and put into the Social Security Trust Fund. In return, current workers were promised that they would receive monthly checks from the fund after they retire. And it worked. After committing decades of their lives to the workforce, retired older Americans could now enjoy some leisure without constantly worrying about finances. Not surprisingly, the poverty rate among elderly households fell from 35% in 1959 to 11% in 1995. Now, Social Security is the #1 source of income security for retirees, with over 90% of retirees receiving Social Security benefits. But all of that is about to change. Remember the little promise the government made? Current workers were promised that they would receive monthly checks from the fund after they retire. In the 1980s, President Reagan began to take money from the Social Security Fund and spent it on other stuff. Wars, tax cuts for the rich, and other government programs. President Bush and Clinton followed suit. In place of the trillions of Social Security funding they all took, they just put in an IOU, a piece of paper that promises the US government would eventually pay the money back. The problem is, they never really did. The Social Security Fund has been cash flow negative since 2010, meaning more money is going out than coming in. For a long period of time, baby boomers were the largest generation in the US. During their working years, they contribute a lot of money to the fund for the silent generation to draw from. And now that the largest generation is retiring en masse, they're starting to get some of that money back. The problem is, there's now fewer workers paying into the system. It's projected that the Social Security Reserve Fund is going to run out by 2034, meaning all new benefits will come directly from current payroll taxes. But taxes would only cover 77% of their promised full benefits. You can think of it like this. If you were promised a $1,000 Social Security check every month, now you would only receive $770. As the cost of everyday items increase, a 20% pay cut is pretty significant. The problem is many Americans believe the 2034 year forecast is guaranteed, but it isn't. It's a warning about what will happen in a good economy. It doesn't really account for the unknown and uncertainty of what could happen during a bad one. Since 2019, the size of the gap between what Social Security has promised and what it expects to pay has grown by nearly $10 trillion, more than 40%. For every $1 that the program has collected in payroll taxes, it has generated roughly $2 of promises that no one expects it to keep. But what about the third leg that baby boomers can hopefully rely on? Prior to the 1980s, pensions were the mainstream private option for retirement income. Basically, companies would set aside money for their employees, invest that money for them, and then these employees would be guaranteed payouts after they retire.
So basically, the baby boomers, or doomers, as I'd like to call them, these are a generation of extremely narcissistic individuals who made the lives of their children hell, specifically Gen X, and now the roosters are coming home to crow and they don't want to pay the piper. You know, it was one big party for the boomers. They're the first generation in history to dodge the draft while they're demanding that other generations go and fight for something, for a country that absolutely hates them. And despite having a gold spoon in their mouths and living through the best economies and the best, the best economy ever, the most stability, best periods of stability. Sure, there were hardships like the 70s, but they're nothing like today. Oh no, the boomers have nothing to show. Many, those that do have those that do have savings, they have at best $100,000 that they will burn through within 2 years or so, and they're all planning to try to live off $1,000 checks. Yeah, that's gonna work out for them. There's also the whole pension thing, which a lot of that is lost now. Most pensions are underfunded, and the states are like, yeah, well, we're just not going to give you what you're owed. We're just going to give you scraps of it. Like that's the reality. And the boomers who created this sick reality, this sick environment where everyone is suffering, these same bad, they're not bad muffins, they're bad prunes, bad raisins. Let's call them bad raisins. These bad raisins will then turn around and say that you hate old people, that society hates old people, and it's a national disgrace what's happening to our elderly as they continue to hold 70% of all the nation's wealth. Everyone else is poor, and they will turn around and say that the government needs to do more to help our elderly, because this just isn't right. This is an absolute disgrace. It's a national disgrace. Yeah, when you've had so many young people out on the streets, no one gave a damn. It was okay. But when it's the boomers, we all need to get together and cry for them, because they're the only ones that actually matter. Yeah. The boomers have done so much damage to the country. The reason why we are now facing global crises where we may be forced to go and get involved in some things, these confrontations with other countries that none of us want to be involved in, is because of the boomers. If we end up at war, it's going to be because we're fighting in the war of the baby boomers to go fight for their ideals, to go fight for their pensions, to fight for their social security, to fight for their investments. Okay? It's all about the boomers, and it's always been about the boomers. George Carlin warned us about the boomers like 20 to 30 years ago. He said that they were cold, bloodless, soulless people who just wanted all the toys for themselves, and they were mean-spirited. Life's hard. Just do it. And they think anyone gives a damn, and then they've got a handful of their kids that are like, I love my mommy and daddy. We should take care of them. Good luck with that, you scumbags. All right? No one gives a damn about these people. They made our lives miserable, and they deserve to get exactly what we got. All right, they should get back exactly what they gave to us, the streets. Okay, we couldn't go inside until the sun went down. Let the boomers go in and enjoy some of that. They got to live easy lives. So now, they started life on easy mode. So now they'll end life on hard mode. We started life on hard mode, and we're still living life on hard mode, but we were built for hard times. All right. So let the boomers go and learn how to code. All right. It's about damn time. It's about damn time. I'm not crying for them. And then, guys, check this out. When you listen to what real estate used to cost, it's unbelievable. All right, real estate used to be a lot cheaper. You think I'm joking? Let's jump into another video very quickly about this 90-year-old man who's fighting off eviction. Now, most of you will feel sorry for him, but then when you hear what his house used to cost, what he bought his house for, then you'll realize the reason why I'm so pissed off.
A 90-year-old man in Brooklyn is fighting to stay in his home. He purchased it more than 50 years ago, long before the Barclays Center was built just blocks away. But now he's facing eviction after he says the deed to his house was stolen by fraudsters. He either has to prove that he is the rightful owner or get out. Eyewitness News reporter Tanya Rivero is live in Park Slope with the story. Tanya.
Well, Liz, David, Ray Cortez came to this country from Peru in the 1950s. He worked hard to achieve the American dream of buying his own home to raise his family in.
Just want to interrupt. He came from Peru in the 1950s. We are in 2024. Okay? We're in 2024. He came from Peru in the 1950s. That means that it's been over 64 years. Did I do that math correctly? 1950s. So if we take 1960 as a starting point, that would be 64 years. So he's been in this country for over 64 years. And let's see how his English is. Let's see how Grandpa's English is. You would assume he would have excellent English after almost 70 years, right?
In his sunset years, he is in danger of losing that home. 90-year-old Ray Cortez has lived in this Park Slope brownstone for over half a century. It's the home where he raised his 3 children and expected to spend his final days. But instead, he will be in housing court tomorrow, threatened with imminent eviction because the current deed shows someone else as the owner. Cortez's son, Ray Jr., has been helping his father navigate the legal morass he says is the result of a decades-old scam.
It's heartbreaking. It's been too long for him to have to carry this with him. It's been devastating.
Cortez bought this house in 1969 for $20,000, long before the $1 million condos went up and the Barclays Center moved in. Now the house is valued at close to $3 million.
Now, that's a very important point. So you bought the house in 1969 for $20,000, and now the house is valued at $3 million. Okay? What was the average salary in 1969? Well, let's go ahead and use an official source. This is actually the Census Bureau. So census.gov. This is the official US website. All right, this is a .gov website. What was the income of the average person in 1969? So the income in 1969 of families and persons in the United States. The median income of families in 1969 was about $9,400. $9,400. All right. And the father was the sole breadwinner, typically in those days. So the average man made around $9,400 in 1969, okay, per year. And you could purchase a house for $20,000 in 1969. This is not a college-educated person. If you were a college-educated person doing a little bit of math, you would assume that you would be making around $15,000 to $20,000, which means that you could purchase your own home with roughly a year's pay. If you were an uneducated person that finished high school and went and got a job working at a factory, you would be making on average at least around 9,400, although a lot of them would make more than that. This is one area I can understand where Gen Z is pissed off, and I agree with them on this. Although I will not give them too much credit because they are bad muffins who don't want to work. Okay? They are. They don't actually want to work. They're just used to making excuses. Do they have it hard? Yes. But they are liars. They really don't want to work. They are bad muffins. But this is ridiculous. All right? And this house, which was purchased in 1969, is now worth $3 million. And we are supposed to work like slaves to pay for this crap? To pay for their junk? You've got to be kidding me. Guys, they have destroyed this country. Reagan made the mistake. He was the first president, evidently, to start borrowing from Social Security. But then what did Bush do? He followed. And what did Clinton do? He followed. And then every president after has been pillaging Social Security. They promised they would pay the money back. They never did. There's a $10 trillion deficit in Social Security. $10 trillion to replenish, and it's cost. Check this out. It's going to cost something like $800 million every year to pay Social Security benefits. There's a $10 trillion deficit in Social Security, and there's no way of us adding this money back. No way whatsoever. We would have to literally go and take out more debt, borrow a ton of money. All right? Trillions of dollars. Even if we went and borrowed $1 trillion, it would only fund it. It would only replenish the funds for a couple of years at best. And I would be right back in the same problem. We honestly would need, we really need to go and borrow around $10 trillion. It's just not going to happen. Man, boy, oh boy, the boomers are something else. They're absolutely something else.
Time when company loyalty actually meant something. The more you work there, the more money you received in your payout. But then Ted Benna changed everything. He believed pension plans were too expensive and too risky for companies, and so he did something about it. Enter the 401k plan, a much worse retirement option in literally every single way, where you now set your money aside, you pick the investments, and if you don't do this, then too bad, so sad. Companies love this alternative. It was a lot less work and a lot less risk for them, so many stopped offering pension plans and migrated to 401k plans instead, shifting the cost of retirement from the employer to the employee. And the timing was perfect. There were two stock market booms in the 1980s and the 1990s, which easily convinced workers that investing in your own 401k was the better move. From 1980 to 2008, participation in pension plans fell from 38% to 20%, while participation in plans like the 401k increased from 8% to 31%. The problem is, a whole new generation of people who never invested before were now chasing the bull market with the nest egg they needed to retire. Steve Sholo and Dan Robertson were two public school teachers who didn't know much about finance, but they saw everyone else was raving about the 401ks, so they decided to join in. By 1996, they had doubled their retirement nest egg to $500,000. By 1999, their portfolio topped $1 million. And they were thrilled. They thought they made the best decisions of their lives. But by the early 2000s, the dot-com bubble burst, and Sholo and Robertson saw their fortune crater from $1.5 million down to $500,000. Tens of thousands of people who had been on the verge of retirement were now forced back to work because they lost everything. But the problems didn't stop there. Whenever money and investing is involved, you can bet Wall Street finds an opportunity to profit. This is Robert Hilton Smith, an economist who regularly contributed to his 401k plan, who one day noticed something was off about his account. Despite the market doing relatively well, his 401k investment account was barely increasing. After digging for days and weeks, he finally saw where his money was going. The plan itself was invested into more than 20 different mutual funds, each of which had its own costs and fees. There's asset management fees, trading fees, marketing fees, record-keeping fees, administrative fees, fees for not knowing there were fees. A 2 to 3% fee might seem inconsequential, but it's not. Just as investing your money allows you to compound and increase your wealth in the long term, cost and fees also rise exponentially over time. Suppose you have an investment portfolio worth $60,000. You plan to contribute $500 a month to it for the next 25 years, and it grows at an average rate of 8% per year. At the end, you'd have $884,635 in your portfolio. That's a lot of money. But if you had a 2% fee, you'd be left with only $606,450. That tiny 2% fee costs you $278,000. In 2012, Hilton Smith reported that on average, an American family will pay nearly $155,000 in 401k fees to Wall Street over their lifetime. But that's not even the worst of it. The idea behind these high fees is that when it comes to mutual funds in your 401k, a professional is helping you invest your money to beat the stock market. The problem is, about 51% of actively managed funds fail to do so. You're actually statistically better off hiring this cat, Orlando. In 2013, Orlando outperformed experienced and qualified wealth managers at picking stocks. And the best part? Orlando doesn't require any hidden fees. Just a can of tuna once in a while. About 12,000 people will turn 65 every single day in 2024. The problem is, their 401k plans are being wiped out. Fidelity found that the average 401k balance fell by 23% in Q3 of 2023, and many are expecting the stock market to get even worse. According to McKinsey, Americans are living longer than ever thanks to better working conditions and healthcare innovations. Life expectancy has nearly doubled since the late 1890s, which is great. We all have more time to spend with our parents and grandparents. The only problem is, it now takes a lot more money to retire than what we, our government, and economy originally anticipated. In economics, they call this the old age dependency ratio.
Now, notice that in the 1890s, the average life expectancy was actually only 44 years old. And, I've seen comments from people saying that Gen Zers are aging like in dog years. And you really can't say that's not true. If you look at people from the 1890s, by the time they were in their 40s, they looked old as hell. Okay? You can see that health, hygiene, stress, these things played a large part in the lives of people. And, it's like Gen Z is going back to basics, man. I've already said it, that they weren't meant to be here that long. I've pointed out that many of them will not see 30. The way that they live, the way that they eat, you can see that they're aging rapidly. And they really have no prospects for the future. All right? They look much older than they should at their age. And the only thing you can really say is that God has given them over to their sins.
Basically, it's the number of individuals older than 65 per 100 people of working age. The higher the ratio, the greater the burden on the current workforce and overall economy to support and provide for the retirees. Government services and programs will be stretched, taxes will need to be increased on the working population to support the increased expenses, and potential pressure to increase the retirement age for future generations. The average old age dependency ratio across OECD countries like the UK, Australia, and Germany is 28, meaning for every 100 working age people, there are 28 individuals who are 65 years or older. The problem is, this ratio is projected to hit 50% in the US by 2075. As housing, education, childcare, and food prices continue to climb, many Americans are struggling to make ends meet. As a result, more and more of the younger generation are refusing to have kids. If you think about it, our entire social and economic structures have the same issues as a Ponzi scheme. If the next generation isn't bigger than the last, it impacts almost everything. Naturally, as you get older and retire, expenses go down. No more overpriced drinks at the bar or buying the latest tech gadgets. But there is one expense that will go up without fail. One particular crisis that baby boomers will have to face head on. A 2017 research study found that a healthy 65-year-old couple retiring will need to spend $275,000 to cover their healthcare costs in retirement. Doctor visits, 20 different pills, and stress balls. 70% of baby boomers will need some form of long-term care, assisted living, hospice care, or nursing homes. The problem is, the average cost of a nursing home is between $7,908 and $9,034 per month. So where are baby boomers expected to get this kind of money from? Most don't have enough in savings, Social Security will be cut, and 401k plans are crashing.
This is the reason why the boomers are waging war across the world, because they're hoping that this will basically lead to some universal basic income that'll bail them out for a lifetime of bad decisions. These are really evil people, man.
Quickly save more money, using a savings goal tracker and checklist is the most effective way to do that. Get mine for free, link down below. You might think one option is Medicare, basically federal health insurance for people over 65. It's more affordable than private insurance. The problem is, Medicare doesn't cover long-term care. So the other option is Medicaid, basically health insurance for low-income Americans. But to be eligible for Medicaid, you need to be at or below 133% of the federal poverty level, meaning most middle-class baby boomers will be in between being too poor to afford the care they need and too rich to qualify for Medicaid. But even if they're able to get long-term care, there's still one more problem. Getting into a nursing home is more challenging than ever. Nursing homes are experiencing staffing shortages, overcrowding issues, and many are actually operating at a loss. As a result, more than 1,000 nursing homes have closed since 2015, and more are on their way out. But there might be one last saving grace for baby boomers who still have a decent life into their twilight years: their children. The problem is, millennials are in a tough spot themselves. Housing affordability, stagnating wages, and a looming debt crisis.
So they want Gen Xers and millennials to foot the bill. I'll just tell you right now, the younger millennials, there's no chance in hell. And they want Gen Xers and older millennials to step in and save them from a lifetime of bad choices. These are the same people that gave their children hard lives and told their children to get the fuck out when they turned 18. In some cases, younger than that. My father told me to get the fuck out when I turned 14. These are the same bad raisins that now expect their children to subsidize their living and save them from the streets. I don't think so.
Many won't be able to get time off work to provide the complex, ongoing assistance their parents might require. And they can't afford to quit because households can no longer support themselves with a single income. Some millennials will be forced to take reduced hours or look for a job with more flexibility, potentially resulting in lower pay, meaning they'll be in a tough spot of having to choose between caring for their aging relatives and their own financial survival. For me personally, family comes before everything else. But for many millennials, they'll need to determine if they themselves will have enough money when they retire. A 2006 research study found that when family members over 50 take on unpaid caregiving roles, they'll lose on average over $300,000 in lost income and benefits, which is a substantial amount. But it's more than just money. There's the mental, physical, and emotional exhaustion that you will undoubtedly experience. And what's even more terrible can only be summarized by this post. You end up in a strange dynamic, where you wish for the day when you don't have to deal with the daily caregiving stressors, and then you realize that you are longing for the death of your parents, which is a strange and terrible place to be. But what if I told you that the baby boomer crisis should be the least of your worries? What most people don't realize is that something weird is happening to your job. For one of the first times in history, people are getting fired without actually getting fired. Click here.
You know, guys, this is some crazy stuff. But, things happen, man. Baby boomers, they said life is hard. Well, welcome to hard living, bro. Deal with it. Josh says, really, Christian? Then tell me how all sins are forgiven. Yeah, the rapture is in the Bible. Matt says, boomers ruined the country. Yeah. Yes, they did. All right. Little Pancho says, mi casa is su casa. Let's see here. Godzilla says, what's up, Angry Great Channel? Good to see you. Little Pancho is still causing trouble. Says, I'll go crazy if I don't get my tequila. I promise, man. That's pretty good English for Little Pancho. Let's see here. Guys, they reap what they sow. Oh, there we go. Royal says they're sowing and reaping and consequences of sin. Yeah, I mean they're reaping what they sow. They're reaping what they sow right now, and I'm not crying for them. And they stole from their kids. They ensured that they didn't care what happened to their kids. This is like, for example, these universities were all Ponzi schemes. They all got rich off their kids, getting their kids to pay large amounts of money for these degrees that took them nowhere. And now they want their kids to bail them out while their kids are saddled with massive amounts of debt and will never be able to own homes. And it's kindness, and Jesus wants them to do this, or else they're going to burn in the pit of hell for all of eternity. Because you do not love thy parents, you must honor thy parents, and to honor them, you need to give them a good retirement. Bastards.
Probably the most hated generation on earth. They'll say to you, "Why are you lazy? Stop complaining and be grateful for once. You don't know how good you have it," among many other things. It's not like inflation is at an all-time high, or the fact that we could literally get into a war soon. Nah, that's just all in our heads. Some boomers think that they know best because they're the oldest, so it means they're always right. Obviously not all boomers, and even into Gen X, obviously not all of them are like that. But for some of them, they believe that they're the almighty kings and queens who think that the new generations are just lazy and need to bust off. But why are they like this? Boomers were born during 1946 to 1964 during many wars. During and after wartime, many countries had huge economic and population growth due to the need for more potential soldiers, advancements in technology, and international cooperation. Due to the massive growth, more people were able to spread their beliefs to their kids and show them what success looked like and how people should act.
Fish are friends, not food.
There are a few main principles boomers and even Gen X believed in. The first one is discipline and authority. Boomers were raised to always behave good around people and to always respect their elders. They were always taught to be obedient and to not talk back or question anyone. The second one is work ethic. Since many countries were industrializing, many boomers started working at a young age and had to work hard to make ends meet for their families. There, they learned the value of hard work and the importance of money and strive to get a good job later. Third one is education. Back then, education was very prestigious, only being available for the rich mainly. School was seen as the best way to get a good life, so there was a heavy emphasis on getting good grades and a degree so you can have a good life. These beliefs don't seem that bad though. So why are younger people complaining? Many boomers ask this, but there's a few things they don't account for. The first one is rising costs and inflation. Boomers don't understand that everything is getting more expensive, and the value of money is getting worse. Back then, boomers can buy whole meals and clothes for less than $1. Now those same items are at least $5 if we're lucky.
A candy bar usually costs $1 in today's world, but if you went back to 1950, you could buy 20 of those, and anything listed on the screen is literally only about $1 in 1950, which is very cheap.
You could argue that jobs paid less back then, hence why everything is cheap, but that's not an excuse for boomers to believe everything should be easy for future generations, especially when it comes to stuff like buying a house.
In 1950, the average price of a house was $7,000. Nowadays, the average price of a house is close to $100,000, which is considered cheap by today's standards.
Back in the 50s, $10,000 to $15,000 could get you something like this, or this. Now for that same amount of money, you can't even afford a house. You have to rent. And that's where most of young people's money goes to.
In 1950, the rent was about $42. But now in the 2020s, it's over $1,000.
The average income of Americans is $37,585, which isn't that much in today's world. You have to pay rent, bills, insurance, gas, food, utilities, and so much more, which basically leaves you with absolutely nothing.
And the boomers will then turn around and say, "Stop crying. You need to suck it up. You're either part of the unluckiest generation in history." This is what they said about the millennials. They said the millennials were the unluckiest generation in history. And then Gen Z came along and we discovered just how miserable things can be for a group of people. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God. You see, the millennials were raised to be slaves for the boomers. Gen Z, on the other hand, they were gifted easy lives by their parents. So, as a result of that, they're not really conditioned for it. They're not built for the fields, man. They're not built for the fields. These kids don't really, they're not going to last that long. All right. I've said it already. They were never really intended to be here that long, man. All right, a lot of these bad Muffins don't see 30. Okay, they are aging in dog years. It's true. Look how old they look at such a young age, and it's just an unfortunate reality that's happening. But it's happening to them because God has given them over to their sins. They were not built for this reality. Okay, hard times create hard people, and Gen Z, they're a bunch of softies. All right, they're soft on the outside and softer in the inside, and as a result of that, they are not going to be able to handle or stand up to the hardships of life.
Yourself. But for boomers, $37,000 in 1950, which is around $440,000 in today's money, literally could have gotten them whatever they wanted, and so much more. Because of this, younger generations end up having to work harder and pick up more shifts and bust their butts more. But it still doesn't work because corporations are so greedy and steal 99% of their money, leaving them living paycheck to paycheck. But boomers don't see all the work millennials and Gen Z put and only look at what they have, which isn't that much. All they have is a small apartment with barely anything in it, which makes them believe that they're lazy and they're not working hard enough, so what are they doing with themselves? They don't realize that their money had a lot more value back then, unlike today, which leads them to brag and boast about what they had when they were their age.
So to be very clear, there was a classic episode of The Simpsons, and Homer is talking to Lisa about something happening, and Lisa says to Homer, she says, you don't understand, and Homer responds, sweetie, it's not. This is the paraphrase. He says, sweetie, just because I care doesn't mean I don't understand. That basically sums up the boomers in a nutshell. Just like Gen Z has made it very clear to me that it's not that they don't believe in God, it's just that they don't care. Key word. With the boomers, it's not that they don't understand, it's really just that they don't care. And then they'll pretend like they don't understand later on when shit hits the fan and they're being held liable for it. And they'll basically say, oh, well, we just didn't understand. No, you understood. You just didn't care. In fact, you made fun of everyone as they were suffering. Gen Z is just getting a bit of taste, just getting a little bit of a taste of what Gen X and older millennials got growing up from the boomers, who were mean-spirited, evil, vindictive, made fun of us, mocked us, watched us bleed when we fell down, and neglected us during the worst of times. Yeah, we are children raised from narcissists, and we survived and had to thrive regardless, or else we wouldn't make it. There was no one coming to save us, and that's just the way we liked it.
Oh, back in my day, I had when I was 22. And when young people tried to explain their situation, they're just don't talk back to me. Did no one tell you that you need to respect your elders? The audacity for them to be that stubborn and ignorant. This leads to the next point. We've all been told to do as we're told when we're younger, without question. And while that's fine to a certain extent, as we get older, we want to do the things we want to do with our life. We don't want to do stuff just to please others. Boomers don't believe in this, sadly. They're very judgmental, and they try to force us to do what they want, because apparently, they know what's best for us. I get that boomers don't want us to fail, but we'll never learn if we don't fail. Usually, boomers are traditionalists and want to force their way of life on others. When young people try to question them, they see it as a personal attack on their ego and get defensive easily. Instead of explaining why they're saying or doing whatever, they just say, I am your mother, you listen to me, or don't talk back to me. That's very rude. Isn't that how a conversation works though? And how we try to work out issues? They're afraid of us breaking boundaries and shut us down to maintain control. But it's not even just basic conversations as well. It can be anything. For example, boomers are very judgy of dress and identity. Whenever they see tattoos, piercings, or someone that's part of LGBTQ, they're immediately turned off and think that this person will ruin your life when they didn't even speak to that person.
Just to point this out, in the 80s and 90s, I was considered fat and poor. Let that sink in. All right. I don't know if it's so much as fat, but he was not up to the standards and the ideals of the typical narcissistic baby boomer. Notice the house that Al lived in. He lived in a good neighborhood. He lived in a good neighborhood because that's where Marcy Darcy lived. All right. And she was a total pain in the butt, and yet she chose to live there. Hence, Al actually lived in a very good neighborhood. Notice this. Nice house. All right. Not a small house, a reasonable size house in a very good neighborhood with what looks like at least possibly a 2-car garage. I don't know if it was a 2-car garage, but it was a nice garage. He drove a classic car. He had a Dodge. I believe it was a Dodge. It was a classic car. It was a very nice car. Did it break down sometimes? Yeah. Guess what? It wasn't because it was cheap. It wasn't because he was poor. It was because that's just how those cars were made back then. All right? He had a nice car. He had 2 kids. Yeah, they had some problems with food every so often. But guess what? You didn't see his kids walking, begging for clothing. They had clothing on their backs. Yes, Bud was kind of a scammer, but he was also like a straight A student. Yes, Kelly was an idiot, but guess what? She could actually read. You know what Gen Z can't do? Gen Z has the reading comprehension of a third grader at best, meaning that Kelly Bundy back in the 1980s and early 90s would surpass the typical Gen Zer in the modern day workforce. Just let that sink in for a moment. On top of it, Kelly actually did go out and look, and she was like trying to get into acting jobs, and she actually did try to work. All right. So as much as you'd like to dig at Kelly Bundy, she actually did make some efforts. Was she running around with Chads and Tyrones? Absolutely. All right. As if Gen Z is any better. Al was a manager of a shoe store. All right. Imagine in today's era, what do you do for a living? I manage a shoe store. What kind of shoes? What kind of shoes do you sell? I sell shoes. My shoe store is a shoe store for women. You know, who are the majority of people that are going to buy shoes? Women. All right. It's a respectable job. He wasn't simply an employee. He was the manager. And he also had people that worked under him at different points. He managed the entire damn store. There's some of you idiots in the comments who are like, bro, it's a shoe store. It's a shoe store. It's a disgraceful job. He managed the entire store. It's a woman's shoe store. There's nothing shameless about that. All right? Why are you shaming another man for his hustle? With that amount, with that money, he was able to afford a nice house. There are some of you idiots who are like, oh, back in those days, people were given homes. So they're trying to, so you guys are like trying to suggest that, oh, maybe his parents or Kelly's parents gave him that house. You're so full of crap. Do you notice that at least most of the time, the lights were always on? They had they had lights, they had TV, they had electricity, they had utilities. Was there some food insolvency? Sure, maybe he sucked at budgeting. All right? But they had clothes, they had a life. They were not really in need of anything. They had a father in the home, and say what you want, but Al was always there to give his kids great advice. He was very protective of Kelly, and he was very attentive to Bud. Did he screw him over every so often? Yeah, that's just how the boomers were. But overall, Al Bundy kept it real, and he wasn't a bad guy. Wasn't a bad guy like that. Think about it. Also, his wife, right? What are modern women like? They don't cook, they don't clean, blah, 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 blah. What about Peggy or Katie Seagal? Okay? Guys, this is Katie Seagal. Katie Seagal was a baddie. He married a baddie. That's Katie Seagal. That's from Married with Children. Okay? Y'all can say what you want. He married a baddie. He married a baddie. Oh, she doesn't want to work. She doesn't want to cook. She doesn't want to clean. Join the club. That's most modern women today. That's Katie Seagal. That's who he married. That was his wife. All right? He had the wife. He had the kids. He had the house. He had the car. He had the little stupid dog. I love dog. I love the dog. Buck. Buck was a beautiful dog. I loved Buck. All right? I love Buck. We all love Buck. What more do you want? Al was living the American dream. He had friends. Guys, he had no ma'am. He had an entire group of friends, men that he would hang out with, go out with, talk crap with. He was living the American dream. What more do you want? The boomers had it great. And they still were complaining. They called Al a loser. Think about this carefully. They bullied Al Bundy. All right? This guy was also a high school star. He didn't go to college. So what? He had a great run in high school. Okay? He got to be a high school star, quarterback, 6 touchdowns in one game, more than most of us could ever imagine. Goes on to become a manager of a store, has employees working under him, has 2 kids, beautiful daughter. Yes, she's promiscuous. What compare that to to women in the modern day era? And I guarantee you, Kelly Bundy had a body count way lower than anyone than her counterparts of today. Okay? Let's just be fair about that. Okay? A nice big house where everyone was able to get their own room. All right? I think it had a basement, backyard, in a good neighborhood. All right? You're not you're not always gonna like your neighbors, but at least you know your neighbors aren't gonna steal from you. Come on. Come on. Mystified says Marcy's second husband invented soft guy era 30 years ago before it became popular. Yes. Oh my gosh. So yeah, Steve, her first husband said, "Miss me with that," and he ran out on her. And then she married, was it Jefferson? And bro was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna live easy. If she's gonna have to take care of me." Granted, she treated him like crap at times, but yeah, he basically said he wasn't gonna do anything. He was a stay-home husband, and that was basically his job, was to live an easy life. She can go to work, she can make the money, and and then come home and give him some loving, and that's just how he liked it. That was just how he liked it. Oh gosh. Oh my goodness. I used to confuse it too. Like someone said the dog's name was Bud. I used to confuse it was actually Buck. It was actually Buck, yeah. And I did say it was Buck. I used to mess him up years ago when I was a kid. And then I like as an adult, I'm like, no, the dog's dead. The damn dog's name was Buck. Okay. Spectre, he was a high school legend. He was a high school legend. All right. Was a high school legend, and he's living in the past. He's still living in the past. Look at the present. Look at everything that you have in the present. You got two beautiful kids. One's brilliant. The other's gorgeous. All right. By today's standards, she's actually not promiscuous. Wouldn't even be considered promiscuous by today's standards. You know, Bud was a straight A student. Was he a scammer? Sure. But was he a straight A student? Absolutely. All right. That's more than you could ask for from Gen Z. Okay. Bud actually went to college. He was a brilliant guy. All right. You have a nice big house. You have a baddie as a wife. Is she lazy? Sure. All right. Is she annoying? Sure. All right. Compare that to the modern day era. I mean, at least she sits on the couch all day, and that's pretty much it. Versus the modern day chick who's going to demand even more. All right. Realistically, when you compare Peggy, to modern day women who all want millionaires, she was actually not high maintenance. Think about this carefully, y'all. Peggy was not high maintenance compared to modern day women. All right. She wasn't high maintenance compared to modern day women. Nope. Nope. And she was a baddie. All right. She wasn't. She was not okay. She wasn't. She was not incredibly feminine, but she was. But then again, she wasn't extremely masculine. By compared to modern to what we have today, she would be considered feminine. She would be considered much feminine. She'd be considered feminine, wickedly feminine in today's era compared to what we have to work with. All right. She was fit. She was feminine. She wasn't all that friendly, but at least you could work with her. All right. And what she didn't make up for with friendliness, she was still a baddie. She was still a baddie. Angel says Peggy was a catch. Exactly. He says Al is the loser. Al wasn't really a loser. He's only a loser because he was only a loser because he felt like a loser, because he perceived things like that. He was not a loser. All right? It was just his mindset. He was always looking at the glass half empty. When he really should have been looking at everything that he really had. If he wanted more money, he could have worked a little bit harder, picked up a second job, invested in the stock market. I'm being honest. He chose to be a loser. He chose to put himself in that position. And to be very clear, in today's era, he'd be considered a winner, even though he'd still act like a freaking loser. That's a choice. Just like you have the INCEL guys who choose to call themselves INCELs and cry because, they want the validation. They want validation from a woman. Get out of here. Nature says Al was a lion. Dude was absolutely based. Absolutely based. Water says Peggy defended Al if needed. La Samba says Al was a winner to me. He was a winner to me too. Alexis says that I did naughty things to her I did naughty things while thinking of her back in the day. Okay, buddy. Let's see here. Mystified says the rich man is he who has few wants. Epictetus, I can't pronounce that. Thing says Al was something the snooty middle class could dump on, when in reality he had everything. He had everything. He had everything. And let's be realistic. Yeah, guys, look at a lot of these people. Their kids are freaking creeps. Their kids are freaking creeps. A lot of these people out here, their kids are creeps, and they come from Little Shop of Horrors. The middle, the middle class. They raise these kids who end up ending up in prison because they're a bunch of little creeps. All right.
I understand that a person should maintain some decency, but it's still no excuse for them to be that judgmental. At the end of the day, it's their choice to choose what they wear. And same thing with the identity. Like, if they feel like they're that identity, just let them be like that. I don't get why they're so judgmental about it. Like, that person is still human. Like, your child's life is not gonna go downhill just because they're gay. You may not be comfortable with it, since you haven't seen it that much, but at least have some respect, like how we give respect to you guys. And again, I'm not.
You see how Gen Z just likes to, I was with him at first, about boomers and the economy and their narcissism. And then he brought in the whole, this whole additional stuff. And it's like, little bro, no one was talking about that. No one was talking about that, little bro. I don't need to hear your life story, little bro. Like, listen, you do you, I'll do me. But I don't need to hear your life story, little bro. You lost me right there, little bro. I don't need to hear your life story. And you see, this is why they call the Zoomers, why they say that Zoomers are just reincarnations of the Boomers. That's why they're called the Zoomers, all right? It's not because they're fast. They're actually quite slow physically and mentally. They're called the Boomers because they're just like the Boomers, all right? A bunch of miserable hippies. Bunch of miserable hippies. That said, the Bundy family could definitely brawl too. That is so true. Even Bud could throw down. They all could throw hands. They all could throw hands. Bro, I have to go. I think I'm going to go over to Amazon and get like Married with Children. Like just rent the entire damn series, buy the entire damn series, and just watch the whole freaking thing. Gosh, I miss the old days. I just want to wrap myself in a blanket of nostalgia. And there's like some scumbags, like there's some of you scumbags in the comments who are like, you can't live in the past. It's people like that who are not moving forward and try to panic. Like, leave me the hell alone, all right? I'll do whatever I want to, okay? All right? You guys, like, this is a miserable future that we live in. All right? We're doing what we can to survive. If I want to take some time and just look back at the past instead of constantly focusing on the misery around us that are the baby boomers, a lot of the millennials, and especially Gen Z, then I can. All right? There's really not much to look forward to, and yet we have to keep on grinding and pushing because that's the only way that we're going to survive. No one wants to like focus on this horrible era, guys. There's a show on Netflix called The Dragon Prince, and there's so much garbage in there, absolute garbage in there, and it's a kids show, and I'm like disgusted by some of the crap that I see, like the woke garbage I see inserted in there, and there's nothing you can do about it. So why the hell wouldn't I want to go back to watching Ghostbusters or Batman the Animated Series? Who the hell is, whose business is it if I want to wrap myself up in a nostalgia blanket and say F you to the rest of the world? Huh? I tell you, it's these people who are trying to live off us, okay? This is why Gen Z is Gen Z, those scumbags. Why Gen X is the mess around, find out generation, okay? Gen X just wants to be left alone. And if you mess around, you're going to find out. If you cannot understand, leave me alone, then you're going to find out. Oh my gosh, I tell you. Pugs. Let's see what some of you guys are saying. You see, guys, you see how hard I work for you? You see how hard I work for you? This kid's a little jerk.
For boomers, college was a golden opportunity to have a better life, and many boomers got degrees and had a stable life and income. Combined with the stigma for some races, Asians, college is a must for all kids in boomers' eyes. However, many millennials and Gen Z don't go to college anymore. It's extremely expensive because of tuition, housing, food, books, and other stuff that they probably have to take out loans for. Some would also rather just pursue other paths. You could go to trade school and get certifications. You could join the military and serve your country. You could start your own business or program and self-study. There's many paths to success, yet college is the only one boomers believe in because they know it works since they did it, and so did many others. If their kid doesn't go to college, they're a disappointment and they'll fail at life. Education was valued a lot back then.
The thing is that it was just a Ponzi scheme. All right, the boomers were basically using it as a means of extracting additional wealth and resources from their kids. They turned their kids into national slaves right off the bat, and they shamed us. Instead of going and getting a trade or working for UPS or the post office, we would actually make a good living income that would be inflationary, and then we would actually have been able to buy a house back then. No, they pushed us into this miserable life. And I'll tell you what's crazy: the same terrible people who pushed us to get these degrees and then make fun of us when we are not able to do anything with them would still turn around and mock us, even in the modern day era, even if we were successful, even if we had gone to trade school, or if we had gone and worked for UPS, or USPS, and made enough money so that we can buy properties and invest in it. We could be millionaires today. The boomers would still stick their noses up at us and say, yes, but you're not accomplished. My friend's daughter who works at Starbucks but has her PhD, she's accomplished. Guys, these are horrible people. You can't win with the boomers. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. All right? They talk crap about you for working at Starbucks with a PhD, but then they also talk crap about you for being a millionaire that doesn't have a college degree. You might be a millionaire, but you could have done much better if you had gotten that degree. You still could have. You don't know what you would have accomplished if you had gotten that degree. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I grew up in New York, and I'm telling you, that's how the people on Long Island sound. Bunch of bougie. I don't know how. I don't know how else to put it. I despise the boomer. Josh Irwin says a PhD is now a. Oh God, laughter is good for the heart. Laughter is good for the heart, guys. Stop. Oh my God. Oh God. Josh says a PhD is now a paid hooker degree. Oh God, oh God. Think and Repent says angry guy for president for real. Yeah, I wouldn't take that shit job even if they paid me well. I would not go. I would, guys. That I would never lower myself to president of the United States. All right, that's a job for a junkyard dog. All these guys, all these guys, like all these tyrants. And I'm not calling Trump a tyrant, but he's definitely a junkyard dog. You've got to be kidding me. Xi Jinping, Putin, Trump. These are guys that these are guys that'll roll around in the mud. Don't let the suits fool you. Don't let the suits fool you. All right? Junkyard dog knows and a junkyard dog knows junkyard dog. Junkyard dog knows junkyard dog and respects junkyard dog. You gotta be kidding me. I'm no junkyard dog. I would never lower myself to the position of president of the United States. That is a low position. That is a low position. It's a position of shame. Position of shame. Gotta be kidding me. Little Poncho says, even I have one in mathematics from Harvard. Yeah, they give them out like candy these days. Oh, yeah. Me deal. Oh my gosh. My gosh. Let me see here. Let's see what you guys are saying. I don't know. Don says, I wasted so much time in school when I should have went into construction. Exactly. A lot of us destroyed our bodies for anything later on anyway. You know, we could have made money. We could have made money, and then right now we'd be cashing out and walking out. I've got two postgraduate degrees. I've got a very hard to get undergraduate degree, two postgraduate degrees. And you know what would that, if I worked very, very hard, I might be able to pull what, $60,000-$70,000 now from that. You've got to be freaking kidding me. Realistically, if I got the right job, maybe 200K. But I'm just being honest. Like, the average person with my extreme education is probably making like $65,000 to $70,000 a year right now. Unless they did some BS, and then they ended up going into a field like investments, where a lot of those people never even went to college. Gotta be freaking kidding me. Don says, at least I can move from Tennessee. Where can these leaders move to? Walk of shame. Think says, the guy who's stuck with AC repair are driving Maseratis right. The guys who stuck with AC repair are driving Maseratis right now where I live. Yep. Absolutely. I tell you. The fish got nuke says, 2 postgrad degrees and YouTube is better money. Ha ha ha, man, that's depressing. Bro, the top content creators on YouTube are doctors, people with medical degrees. A lot of them have just quit on medicine, or they're like BSing. They're like, oh well, I still do a little something with medicine. Bro, they're just like still keeping their, like, they work like one day every couple of months so they can still act like they're actually doctors. But there's the top content creator, the top YouTube specialist, like this guy, his name is Ali. And he was a doctor, all right? And he's one of the top content creators on YouTube. He teaches people how to create, how to develop extraordinary YouTube success, all right? MD, Dr. Mike, all right? That's another big content creator on YouTube. He is a medical doctor, all right? One of the biggest content creators on YouTube, Dr. Mike, all right? There's another chick, I can't remember her name, Izzy, all right? She's from the UK. She's a medical doctor. She teaches Chinese. She's one of the top content creators on YouTube as well. It's a pattern, okay? Dr. Orion, Psych Hacks, okay? He's a clinical psychologist with a PhD. Oh, Jordan Peterson. Do we need to keep on going? Do I need to keep on going? Oh, Eric Berg. Okay? Eric Berg. He has a doctorate in chiropractics. All right? He is one of the top doctors, top medical channels on YouTube, if not the top medical channel on YouTube. Okay? Guys, this is, if you want to make, like I told you, we are going into the creator economy. And one of the reasons why I'm able to thrive so much on YouTube is because, believe it or not, a lot of the research skills that I gained, being in school for such a long time. For example, I actually built many courses. I have tons of courses. And it's because I went to school and I spent so much time having to write papers and learn how to do citations and all that other crap. Like, for example, you don't cite Wikipedia, you cite the citations on Wikipedia. It's because I learned how to do all of that stuff, why I can develop things rapidly for you, why I can teach different skills, why I can learn different skills rapidly. So it's not like I didn't get anything out of it. But the fact of the matter is that you could develop a lot of these skills on your own now by just learning, by going onto YouTube and learning. But the thing is, Gen Z, they never really learned how to learn, and they're not really interested in learning. They just want to chill. They just want to chill and smoke weed, THC, and fart and get drunk and live degenerate lives. They don't really have much of a future. Bao says, doesn't even Asmald have some business degree? I didn't know. Guys, that's another guys. That's another thing I should point out. You have channels like the Lock Picking Lawyer. That's one of the bigger channels on YouTube where this guy just picks locks. Okay? You have a bunch of law channels on YouTube as well with actual lawyers where they just sit around talking crap. Some of these channels, there's a channel like Nate. This channel is not even so much law as it's just like straight manosphere. You have a ton of law channels that are part of the manosphere. It's insane. It's insane. All right. There's so many highly educated people with masters, PhDs, doctorates. Stephanie Buttermore. Buttermore. She's a fitness influencer. She's actually a PhD. Dr. Stephanie Buttermore. Oh my gosh. You've got to be kidding me. All right. And we take basically people like us, we take a lot of our research skills and we apply that to YouTube. We learn, we develop new skills, and then we're able to do that. That's one of the reasons why I'm able to pump out 5+ videos a day for you guys on just this channel alone. I put out 5 videos a day. It used to be 6. It used to be 6, sometimes even up to 10. I can't do 10 anymore. And then YouTube doesn't want me to do 10 anymore. So I actually had to cut back. But I used to pump out 10 videos a day, sometimes even 20, if I really was crazy. But now it's 5 videos a day. I put about 5 videos. Sometimes I'll give you guys a bonus. You'll get 6 on this channel. And then you'll also get the live stream sometimes. Like today, this is my second live stream for today, I think. I think it's the second live stream for today. And, and that's on top of the 5 videos that are already out. And all those videos are already made and scheduled to go out throughout the day. So those videos will also go live. I also have a newsletter that I work on for you guys. The newsletter is insane. So guys, right now my newsletter business is frightening because I haven't been putting as much focus as I could on it and on growing it. I work on it, I plug it in the videos, and but it's insane how much like potential that newsletter has. Like I don't know. I'm gonna have to teach you guys about newsletters because you can make an entire income just off a newsletter. All right. Think and Repent just dropped a $5 Super 6 sticker. Thank you for that. Stevie says, I'm a PhD. Rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. Yeah, these things are like gravy. I'm not saying that like they're a dime a dozen these days. I'm not saying you're going to work hard for that PhD, buddy. But it's like these days you're better off not even mentioning you have a PhD. You really are not even. It's like it's a sad piece of paper. It's a sad piece of paper. It's like narcissism 101. Oh, I have a doctor. I have a master's. I have a doctorate. I have 2 doctorates. I have an MD, a doctorate, and a law degree. Like, no one wants to be around you, bro. And then you have like some guy sitting at the table, like smoking a cigarette. Yeah, I worked for UPS for 20 years, man. I have a net worth of $3 million and 2 wives. All right. But life's good, man. Good job on all those degrees. Good jobs on all those degrees. How much student loan debt do you have? You dumbasses. Yeah. Let's see here. You guys are something. Because someone goes, not all Gen Z, but just most of them. Just most of them are jerks. Let me see here. No Name says, first women called us low value men. Now men are getting revenge by walking away and entering the soft guy era. Yeah. Yeah. I think it says a better use of a degree is to teach people what you learned on YouTube. Guys, the thing is that teaching you how to make money, right? Teaching you how to take the skills that I have and use those to make money. That's the ultimate goal. All right. That's the honest to goodness truth. I'm not going to teach. I'm not going to waste. Most medical doctors are not going to waste time sitting around teaching you medicine on YouTube. All right. There's a very limited space for that. There are channels for that, but they can take those skills and those research skills and apply them to things that they enjoy. For example, Izzy teaches people about Chinese. She studied Chinese, she learned Chinese, and now she teaches people how to learn Chinese. And she'll create different products and services to help people learn Chinese. And she's made a crazy amount of money doing that. All right. Ali, he was working as an MD in the UK, making $20 an hour. Yeah, they don't make a lot over there as a junior doctor. And what did he do? He left medicine. He left medicine, and instead he took those skills and now he teaches people how to build businesses, how to create different things. My newsletter business is crazy. I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can make a crazy income building out my newsletter, and it would end up being over time, it would end up being less work than YouTube. And that would be a passive income. Sure, I'd have to put in a little bit of work here and there, but it would be nothing like YouTube if I can build this thing and scale this thing up. You know, I'm just being very, very honest with you. I look at it that way and I realize that there's so much opportunity out there. You know, guys, so many of you are desperate. Oh, like, oh, you have a master's in this subject. You have a degree in electrical engineering or in rocket science. You should be teaching people about electrical engineering or rocket science. Or I could take those skill sets and teach people about cryptocurrency and how to invest in the crypto market and make a ton of money. Yeah, or I could teach you how to develop your own YouTube business, your own brand on YouTube, and make a ton of money by creating your own YouTube channel, doing what I'm doing. All right. Doing things that everyone and anyone can do instead of like being so stuck up and focused on these very limited subjects. Like a lot of you guys are stuck on this whole 9-to-5 crap. Like a lot of those jobs are going away and they're not going to come back. All right. Electrical engineers will be around for a long time, but work these 9-to-5, luxurious 9-to-5 jobs, white collar jobs, they're going the way of the dinosaur. They 100% are. And the gig economy is becoming oversaturated. And a lot of those jobs will end up being replaced by AI as well. Okay? That's just the reality. Just the reality. I would never even go near OF. I would never create an OF account, even as a joke, even if it was just like, guys, when you create an OF account, like you're marked for life. You are marked for life because it will always show up. If you make even $1 on OF, it will always show up on your taxes that you had an OF, and you are screwed. All right, no one is gonna want to touch you. Every employer, like the U.S. government, they won't even want to let you. They won't even want to give you like safe and expedited entry, like trusted traveler status, because you were on OF, and that platform is being shut down. Dreamstorm says 9-to-5 is over, dude. All these idiots talking like that old world still exists. Guys, the 9-to-5 era is dead. And you could see that as no one could find a job. Most of the jobs created under the Biden administration were all jobs created in the public sector. They've been propping up the economy by creating government jobs, and most of those jobs are held by women as more men leave the economy. And and now they're running out of money to create more government jobs. They're running out of money to create more of these garbage jobs. All right? They're absolutely screwed. They are screwed. And when you look at the gig economy, it's oversaturated. There are too many people trying to live off the gig economy and tormenting people for tips. At some point, they're going to get found out that they've been tampering with food. At some point, they are going to get discovered that they've been tampering with food of people who don't tip them, and they're going to start getting arrested. It's going to become a big thing. All right. But regardless of that, the gig economy is oversaturated. It's going to begin to collapse very soon. You're already beginning to see it fracture, where a lot of people are like, yeah, they can't make money doing DoorDash anymore like they used to. All right, because there's way too many people that are now in the country, let's say 20 million of them, who are happy to do these jobs for less. And they are hungry for these jobs. And they're taking that money and then sending it out of the US in many cases as well. And they're not paying taxes. You guys need to wake up and realize that this is it. The gig economy is oversaturated. We're moving into the creator economy now. What is the creator economy? The creator economy is learning how to leverage social media. It's learning how to leverage YouTube, Instagram, these platforms, even platforms like X. It's learning how to create value for others. Like what I'm doing here. This is only one part of my business. Okay? This is only one part of my business. And you have to learn how to create multiple streams of revenue, multiple streams of income. I will say I suffered a lot in my life, but it's my lifetime body of knowledge that has made a big difference that I can now pull from.
Now it's not. Times have changed, but the school system hasn't. So why would millennials and Gen Z waste their time? Even if young people say this, the boomers won't listen. So how does this affect millennials and Gen Z? There's two main effects that boomers cause. The first one is a pressure to please. If a person doesn't do what the boomer wants them to do, they get pressured by them or they guilt trip them into doing it. This makes the millennial or Gen Z question if they're making the right choice, and they end up contradicting themselves. They do what their parents want, but they're not happy. Even though their parents are happy, they're not. It's their life, not their parents. And they should have the freedom to choose what they want to do. The second one is poor mental health. Millennials being called lazy is killing them when they're literally busting their butts trying to make ends meet in a terrible economy. Boomers don't understand their situation and they just yap, which leads to more arguments and a disconnect between younger and older generations. I know that some boomers act like this because they're not used to change or just don't want to accept it. That's valid. But as the world continues to evolve, more and more ideas are going to be spread and there's different struggles that are going to come out. Boomers need to learn to accept these changes and be open-minded to new ideas. But millennials and Gen Z also have to do their part and continue to show boomers endless possibilities and ideas people have and can do. At heart, all boomers are good people. We just have to get them used to the new world and things will only go up from there. Ending on that positive note, if you've made it to the end, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, guys, they're screwed. Many of them are gonna end up homeless, and their sins are gonna catch up to them. They reap what they sow. He said, yeah. Desmond says he doesn't know what the Gen X had to go through with the boomers. Man, boy, oh boy, the lives that they gave us. They gave us such hard lives, and we need to give it back to them. We don't have to do anything. All we have to do is just let nature take its course. Lo said, but bad muffins. The Gen Z are bad muffins. The boomers are bad raisins. Yeah. John says boomers need to get with the times and make it OF. Mystified said they are owed nothing. Yep. 100% agree. 100% agree. Oh gosh, guys, if you're enjoying, guys, the future for the boomers is basically destitution, hardship, and poverty, and they brought it onto themselves. All right, that no one's going to come and save them. Just like Gen X learned very quickly, no one's going to rescue us, and they're doing this whole Hail Mary pass right now, thinking that by creating conflict in the rest of the world and and trying to elect this person or that person, they're going to keep the good times rolling, and they're going to be able to ride off in the sunset. It's just not going to happen. The answer to really why I said don't feel bad for these losers is no one's going to come and save them. They're going to learn it the hard way. And no amount of deceitfulness, evil, or conniving and plotting is going to get boomers out of the just apples that they've created. They reap what they sow. Subscribe to our newsletter for my personal thoughts, insights, and a free copy of my ebook, The Blueprint for Escaping the Rat Race. And click the link in the description to get your free copy. Guys, do not cry for the boomers because they would not be crying for you. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you agree that we shouldn't feel bad for them, don't cry for them. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you there. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWM and walking away. And cheers.